Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Yvonne from Ginger Chick Rehab. I am so glad to have you back today, and if you're new here and visiting my channel for the first time, welcome. I do lots of DIYs, trash to treasure, furniture flips with my husband Chris, and thrifting adventures to fit into the farmhouse decor. So in today's video, I am participating with Casey of Coffee in My Sunshine. Casey's co-host for this wonderful event is Lianep from DIY Beauty on Purpose. Casey hosts a monthly challenge of using trash to create treasure. And if you are new to my channel or you're already part of my YouTube family, you know that I am a thrifter. So I consider thrifted items trash because they're unwanted and people, they're kind of salvaged and people don't want them anymore. And a lot of times when we get them to repurpose them, they're broken, they need fixed, they need painted, they're missing parts. So in today's video, my trash, using trash to make treasure, this is kind of a Frankenstein. This is something that my husband is doing. And it's and our last ones that we participated with Casey's challenge was kind of a Frankenstein also. I don't know when you're out thrifting if you see pieces and parts of furniture. Well, I see them a lot and they're very reasonable price. So this time, right after they opened back up after being shut down, I saw this beautiful, I guess I'll call it a curio cabinet. I'm not really sure what the technical name of it, but I just absolutely thought it was gorgeous. But it was missing its bottom. So, I don't make decisions for my husband, but I did shoot him a picture saying, do you think this is something you could use and create something out of? So he told me go ahead and get it, and so I did. So I sat there and I was kind of just looking around, as I was thrifting and seeing if I ever found something that we could use as the bottom for it. So one day I came across an end table for $209, and the wood kind of matched. The legs I thought would give it the height, because this cabinet had a space on it that you knew that was not the height that it was supposed to be. There was a indent in the top, so you knew that it needed to be taller. That wasn't something visual that you wanted to see on the top of a cabinet. So I kind of brought the end table home. It did not have any top. It was just the legs. And I thought for $209, either he can use it or he can't use it, So this is the process of how he Frankensteined these two pieces together using trash to make treasure in today's video. Here it is, this beautiful console cabinet that I ran across in Goodwill right after they opened back up, but as you can see, it was missing a little something. I have no idea what happened to the base of this cabinet, but so there it sat until we could find something to dismantle and use as the base for this cabinet, because this wood was pretty vintage, so you wanted to find something that matched. And I don't know that the price of $35 was expensive or cheap, but I knew I saw the beauty and that detail of these doors and the glass on that and all that detail. I just absolutely thought it was gorgeous. So there it was, this little side table that had no top for $209. The woods were similar. It had the tall base that we needed, and now we could complete this cabinet. So really the parts that Chris needed for this to finish this project were just the legs, and boy were these legs on this to stay. And maybe that's why somebody donated it. They were going to do the same thing, use these legs for something else, but they did not want to come apart. So with a lot of elbow grease and a lot of muscle, he got them apart. I mean, this wood was the same similarities to the cabinet, so it was nice to find this, but whoo, that was a little bit of a workout. So now it's time to remove the doors from the cabinet for painting. And you want to make sure that you remove any hardware. It just gives you a nice clean paint job. So this had a light at the top of it. So luckily it did work, but for painting it needed to be removed. So, you know, of course, in my mind, when I bought that little thing home for Chris to take apart or to use, I just envisioned that he just cut it down the middle and he used half and attached some boards. Well, good thing I'm not the woodworker of the family. So what he's here is assessing what he needs to build and how tall it's going to, because you can't just think that this heavy piece of a cabinet is just going to rest on these 4 legs. So now here he is making the box to fit along the bottom that will securely hold these 4 legs in place and be able to attach to the base, the bottom part of the cabinet that the bottom part of the cabinet is missing. Still don't mystery where that ever is. But when you're thrifting, somehow things are always missing or broken or need fixed. So it's not odd to run across something when you're thrifting that all the pieces and parts are not there. And maybe you all would leave it behind, but I liked the challenge, you know, of thinking outside the box. So luckily, this wonderful husband of mine is very creative in what he comes up with to make these beautiful Frankenstein pieces for me. So here is that cabinet's new base. See where I kind of envisioned that he could have just cut that in half and put another board on it, but nope, that would not have been structurally sound to hold the weight of the cabinet. So now this cabinet is a more pleasing height to the eye, and the top is not completely, it's a nice top, but it's not completely finished. So that's where you kind of knew that there was a base missing, that you usually would have had a flatter top on the top of a cabinet like that if that was the height it was supposed to be. So now to prep this piece for painting, we're just using some crud cutter just to thoroughly clean. This eliminates any oil, any residue, any cleaning products that the previous owner had, any dust. It's just a wonderful prep for cleaning a object. A pre-prep just helps the paint adhere wonderfully. And then you want to make sure that you let it completely dry before painting. So it would have been nice to remove the details on these windows for painting because I absolutely love them, so I do not want to take them off. But you just have to tape off really good around them because, you know, you don't want to make a mess of trying to have to figure out how to paint, you know, get that paint off of them if you get it on there. So the first thing he needed to do before he started painting this piece was there was a piece where the light was that was metal, and you know, for the best coverage of metal, the spray paint does the best. So he's just hitting that with some spray paint because he couldn't really get into that position to get that little piece moved. So he has cleaned all the hardware that he could possibly clean that was on this cabinet, and it was a lot of it. So just with the crud cutter. And now he's going to give it a spray of the Rust-Oleum paint and primer in the flat black to give it a freshened up look. And then after that thoroughly dried and he flipped the pieces, he's just protecting them with some polycrylic. We just find that this protects the hardware just like a wax protects paint. So now Chris is getting ready to paint this cabinet, and he's just using that black onyx and flat, and this is a ready to use. You just pick it right off the shelf at Walmart, and I kid you not, it's $13 a gallon, and I absolutely love this paint. I started off with a quart of it and absolutely loved it. But see where you can see that little detailing on the top there? That's where you knew that this needed to be higher, that you shouldn't, that's not a look that you should be looking at. So we knew this cabinet needed to be taller than what it was. And then with that detailing on the doors of this cabinet, You know, we were not going to be able to take those off and paint them. And they are a brown in color. So I did not think that that would coordinate with my usual go-to, a white distressing. So this little cabinet is going to stay black and get distressed. I just absolutely love how those feet blend into the bottom of this cabinet, and that new wood, he sanded that smooth, and it just matches. It just looks like this was the cabinet the way it was supposed to be. So after 2 coats of the black onyx and flat, he's going to polyacrylic this piece because we are going to distress it. And that just seals in this paint, and so when you're doing the sandpaper, it's not acting more like a chalk paint than it is a black paint. So this just seals that black paint in so we're able to distress it. So this is where we work together as a team. So I'm going to be doing the sanding on this piece. And what I'm doing, as you see, I have a 150 sandpaper, and I am sanding, putting a lot of pressure on these edges. So I'm taking that dark off, you know, the dark of the black, and then the dark of what the previous wood would have been, so you can actually see the pop of where we have distressed it. And I'm going to hit every sharp edge. And as you see inside the cabinet, it kind of has a paneling, you know, board look. So I'm going to be doing every little edge that there is. And so then after I get those edges, I come back with a fine-grained steel wool, and I just take that shine of that polycrylic. Even though it's a matte polycrylic, it still leaves a shine, and that just makes this sweet piece just nice and smooth. So this is the part of sanding black that you think, oh my gosh, look at that. That looks chalky. It looks like it is a mess. So here I am taking the air compressor and getting it all that dust removed. So here again, if this is your first time visiting my channel, I am obsessed with this Waverly antiquing wax. I just love what this does. So the reason that I took it all the way down to that light wood was because I knew I was going to be doing this wax on it, and it just gives it that nice aged look, and it just, you know, what looked chalky and like a mess is just nice and smooth and evened out with this wax. Just look at how beautiful that filled in all that, and it does not look white and chalky anymore, and it just looks clean. So our hopes were to, since this was a lighted cabinet, to be able to replace the glass on these shelves that went into the cabinet. So that's why we had painted them black and got them all nice and stained, only to realize that in our hoard of glass that we have left behind, that we had nothing long enough to cut it. You know, sometimes, you don't always measure first, and when you eyeball, it just was not big enough. So Chris ended up cutting some of his thinner beadboard, which was the white, and attaching that onto these shelves. So yes, it would have been nice to replace it with some glass. And then it also would have been nice if he would have let me paint these beadboards before he attached it. But, you know, it is what it is. So since I had already waxed the black of these, I just taped off around where he had put the beadboard. Then you can see a little variation because it was a white wood underneath that black with that stain. But that's okay. That'll be reflective of that light, and it'll be the shelves where you're storing stuff. So now it's time to remove that painter's tape off these doors and start getting all that hardware back on the hinges. And then it had magnets on the doors that, you know, kept the doors in place. So there was just a lot of hardware to this piece. I have to say, I just love some of this vintage hardware on these older pieces. Just the detailing. I just don't know if you can reasonably buy hardware like this anymore. I mean, even I'm so glad that it spray paints and just looks as beautiful that it does. So I don't know about you all because you're used to us painting our furniture white. You know, if you're new here, we usually paint most of our furniture white, but this piece just screamed to be black, and I absolutely love how it turned out. It just goes with that detail on those windows just beautifully. Sometimes I wish I was a professional photographer, so you know, you didn't see that reflection in that glass, so you could really see the details on this glass. You know, it's just beautiful. And you know, I didn't even want to attempt to paint that black, to paint this piece white, and I feel that it looks like it's been on that base its entire life, and I'm glad that yet again we could Frankenstein another pieces and parts together and make this beautiful piece. So what did you think of our Frankenstein piece? What did you think about putting two pieces and parts together that definitely were never meant to be together, but I feel as if it created a beautiful piece? And I absolutely love the black. I don't know what your feelings are, but that would probably be our first big piece of furniture that we've ever left black. So again, I thank Casey and Lianep for hosting this wonderful Using Trash to Create Treasure, and both their channels will be down in my description box. So if you're not subscribed to their channels, please go on down to my description box, click on their link, and please subscribe to their channels. They have wonderful channels. You know, they are very inspirational, lots of DIYs, lots of trash to treasures, you know, along with the playlist that will be in my description box also of all these wonderful participants that have just, you know, I just am always amazed with what people can come up with. The creative talents of others just inspires me so much. So thank you so much for watching today's video, and if you're part of my YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you'd like to become part of my YouTube family, just hit that subscribe button.